was sent to get you for a reason.
Open the door! No!
There's a flower on the pillows, a flower in the bathroom. Like, we're important.
The only chance we have is if all three of us go crazy on this guy.
Who is that? Maybe she can help us.
We're here! Help us! We're in here!
Don't worry. He's not allowed to touch you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Lobby, a podcast that lives here on the Real Lovers podcast feed. And we are continuing our M. Night Shyamalan retrospective series with the 2016 film Split. And joining me for this part 2 of the M. Night Shyamalan superhero trilogy is the returning guest from the Unbreakable podcast is Peyton from Peyton Pictures. How you doing? How you doing, Peyton?
Great. Good to be here. Glad you could have me on.
And then Kale from the Youth Critic podcast. How you doing, Kale?
I'm doing good, everyone. How's everyone doing? I wonder why we're coming back after so many episodes, of being away. Why are we all coming back together now? We could have done Signs, Lady in the Water, The Last Airbender, but we're only back together for this one episode.
We're back because this is the second part in the superhero trilogy, like I said.
Split, more like Reunited.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, Split came out in 2016, and it came out at Fantastic Fest in 2016, September 26, 2016, and then came out January 20th, 2017, with a budget of $9 million, and it grossed a total of $278 million worldwide, and it was the most profitable film that year, obviously, with a budget of $9 million. I feel like M. Night Shyamalan probably doesn't really have to raise any money after that. He's basically funded his films for the next 10 years after that. This film stars James McAvoy, Anya Taylor-Joy, Betty Buckley, Haley Lou Richardson, Jessica Sula, Izzy Coffey, Brad Henke, Sebastian Arcelus. It's written, directed, produced by M. Night Shyamalan. It's also produced by Jason Blum. This is the second film in this collaboration with Jason Blum. Peyton, I'm just gonna start off with you. What are your kind of like initial reactions like the first time you saw this, for Split? Did you happen to see this at Fantastic Fest, like when it came out in 2016?
No, I was like 14 when it premiered at Fantastic Fest, so there would have been no way they would allow me there. But I've been to 2 Fantastic Fests since I turned 21, and it's a great festival. I highly recommend it. I hope M. Night Shyamalan premieres a movie there again in the future, so then I can be. But with Split, I actually was begging my family to go to this movie because back when this came out, I was not in a position to make my own decisions for what we watched in the theater, or at least I could, but I kind of had to like have someone tag along with me. I couldn't drive, so someone had to take me to it, and it of course costed money. I didn't have a job, so like there was that. So I didn't get to see Split in the theaters. My grandma saw it. She said it was awful, horrible. Who came up with this? So violent. And I actually ended up watching it once it dropped on like digital release, and I loved it. I always really liked this movie. I did not understand. I wasn't a huge M. Night super fan like I am now. I did not understand that this was a sequel to Unbreakable. I had to have Chris Stuckman explain that to me in a video that he made, because I'm a huge fan of Chris Stuckman. I was at the time too. So that's my history with this movie, and I've only grown to love it more as I've seen it more times. And I will say, though, this is not in my higher tier of M. Night movies, and we'll get into why during this episode, I'm sure. But I love this movie still.
Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely dive deep into it. But Kale, what's your history with Split?
So I remember I did not go to Fantastic Fest or Beyond Fest or any of the fests where this premiered at the end of 2016. I saw this at the Movie Tavern in Lawrenceville, Swanee area. This was, so back in college, this theater was kind of like our like go-to theater because they served alcohol before like everyone started serving alcohol. So we would go there, get some drinks, and we were kind of only going to watch Split because we were hoping for a crazy batshit comedy or batshit like just off the rails movie. And I think in one of the rare cases of seeing a movie with like my group of friends from college, we basically made a 180 where we were like, oh my God, this was actually like well made, well put together, well, like everything was good, the acting was good. Because so many, like, because at this time, I mean, like, yes, The Visit had come out, but so much of M. Night Shyamalan's aura at the time was still like, I mean, stilted acting, static cinematography, like everyone kind of treated him as like the bland Spielberg they could. So for him to like make a 180 out of us, okay, I'll take it. So to make it, do a 180 on this is like really compelling. And I was actually, it was a really impressive turn. And it was even more impressive when I found out later that, or really recently, until like this only came out like less than a year and a half after The Visit. And like, and in doing, like, he literally premieres this movie like a year after The Visit. So like he was like, after The Visit, he was like, we're moving, we got to keep going. It's so to me the whole thing is impressive. I thought, I think it's a good movie, and I did not see the twist, or I did not hear of the twist. And I think the reason why, because this was like a couple weeks out later, I think the reason why so many of us weren't expecting a twist or expecting that twist, if you know what I mean, is because like there wasn't at the time like this aura of, or this like culture of like, we gotta spoil the ending to like Marvel movies, like as soon as they come out, like the Thursday night it comes out, we got to spoil the end credit scene or whatnot. Like there was a lot of like, and probably for the last time, a lot of like, no, we got to let people experience it. We can't talk about it online or anything. We got to just let people just talk about it. Let them discover it, because it really is. Because the twist, that the post credit scene at the end of this is probably one of the best that there ever was, just because not only do you not expect that you're watching a certain kind of movie, but also thematically works in a like it actually uplifts the movie. It actually makes the movie make more sense.
Well, it makes the movie make more sense, but also it doesn't necessarily like ruin the movie that you saw before. And I feel like that's
the opposite.
I think that's something that, like, I love M. Night Shyamalan for his twists, but I feel like a lot of his movies, like when you know the twist, it kind of ruins the movie a little bit. Well, you're a super fan, but I'm not. I don't want to. I think ruining is a little bit. I think ruining is a little bit kind of negative, but it's just like for The Sixth Sense, like he sees dead people, so it's kind of like I know that going in, so it's like like obviously there's more to pick up from that movie, but I feel like with here it's still like a solid thriller, and then M. Night Shyamalan tacks on like, oh, it's a sequel to Unbreakable, so that's
very true. The twist is less baked into the enjoyment of the movie. I think I think we can all agree on that, at least. Like the twist in this movie is like, it doesn't change. It's not about changing the story you just saw. It just puts it into the context of something else. So it's less of a detriment or an improvement on the experience. Although I do think it improves the film. It's just that, like me, when I saw it and I didn't know what that even meant, you just watch it and it's a movie, and it doesn't go too far in being some kind of grand reveal to the point of like really shoving it in your face. If you don't know, it's sort of like an if you know situation. I guess the very like last shot is very overt, but even then you might just be a little puzzled, and then you just have to look into it a little bit. But so yeah, it's like for the fans, it's also for general audiences. It's a good mix.
Yeah, I know for me, when I heard that score like pop up, I screamed like in the theater. I was like, oh shit, like when that happened. And like when I originally saw this, I didn't see it at Fantastic Fest, unfortunately, but I did hear the buzz come out of Fantastic Fest, and probably the most interesting thing like when this movie premiered there is that no one really knew what it was, because M. Night Shyamalan really kept this film like under wraps because he wanted that surprise to happen at the end. And I think that's probably like the best thing that could have happened. Shout out to all the people that saw this movie at Fantastic Fest, because no one really knew that this was a sequel to Unbreakable. I'm really glad that no one spoiled that for the rest of us that saw this in January. Or the following year. So shout out to all the people that attended that premiere. But I love this film. Like when it originally came out, like I said, it's like I think it's like a really tight thriller, like we already kind of like already stated. I did think that the first time I did watch this, I did find myself being a little bit confused with the whole DID stuff and all the multiple personalities, just because it's just a lot to take in. But on this rewatch, I really started paying attention to James McAvoy's like performance on how he switches from the different personalities. It's a masterclass performance, like for sure. Yeah, I really started to appreciate that performance for sure. And the interesting thing was like when I was researching stuff to do this episode, is that M. Night Shyamalan has talked about how he was kind of making movies for himself a little bit, like before this movie happened, and then like when he started having kids, like he started making movies kind of like catered to them and kind of like paying respects to them. So it's very interesting that this movie is centered around three women, kind of and also just Anya Taylor-Joy's character kind of like rising against like the oppressors that have taken her. It's kind of something that it's like he's telling his daughters, like, when you're in this situation, you can, I believe in you. You can get out of like tough situations. So I think that's really cool to have like M. Night Shyamalan kind of like speak to his daughters in this sort of way. But I don't know. I love Split. So
I think, yeah, I mean, he said before, like, or I guess his daughter said this, but it was in an interview for Trap where, you know, when he wrote this movie, his daughters, or Salika at least, was like the age of these girls. So he's writing essentially his fears as well. You know, similarly, Abigail Breslin's character in Signs is the same age that Salika was when that film was written. Also, fun fact, Salika Shyamalan is credited on IMDb for Signs for artwork because her children's drawings are in that movie as Bo's drawings. So that is another great little connection. You know, I think Trap is like this kind of. I'm sorry, we can't talk about Trap.
No.
I was gonna say it. You were right. Like when, and this is so great because it's like this plays into exactly what we've already recorded the following episode on the next film, and this kind of plays into that as well. But you talk about how he's making these movies surrounding his own family. You know, his movies always center around family in some way. This one more about his fears. I think Trap is also more about his fears too, in a different way. They're more personal fears. But yeah, you can see him kind of building to Trap almost. Like you could make the argument that Trap is a huge career point because it's a revelation of how his prior films have been more about his family and his children than we originally might have thought from seeing them, because you know it literally is like he's Cooper and like his lives are being sorry I hiccuped, his lives are being crossed, you know, in front of us. Anyway, Split is a great movie. I agree with everything you said. James McAvoy is phenomenal.
Yeah,
Kelly, you want
to yeah, we've kind of been talking a bunch.
No, I mean, well, for me, like the way it is an incredible performance, and it's even more incredible when you find out Joaquin Phoenix was supposed to do this movie, and he dropped out. Like he pulled a Joaquin Phoenix.
Walking Phoenix.
Walk
out Phoenix. Yeah.
Walk it out.
I think walk out, yeah.
Walk hard, Phoenix. Walk hard, Phoenix.
Walk the line, Phoenix.
He walked the line out of the set.
Walk the plank, Phoenix. I mean,
okay.
Continue. Okay, oh, sorry.
But no, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix, you know, he got cold feet, and he left, and they had to scramble because the thing about this movie was, like I mentioned earlier, with a turnaround. Jason Blum got the script for Split in June of 2015. And then they were filming at the end of October of that same year. So it was really like a 12, 14, 15-week turnaround from when he got the script to we're filming. So, and of course, Joaquin Phoenix leaves. Also, Sterling K. Brown was supposed to be in this movie.
That would have been cool.
I don't remember like what role or what for, but he was supposed to be in it. And also, I mean, you have Anya Taylor-Joy fresh off of, like, or as some people like to say, The Bitch. And then also, you have the David Robert Mitchell's It Follows. You have his cinematographer joining on as a DP. So it's like M. Night Shyamalan, in the span of like less than 4 months, has like put together this incredible like cast and crew. Especially when you consider like the two other like female characters that are in this. I mean, it's Haley Lee Richardson, fresh off of The Edge of 17, like supporting, like great supporting performance. And then you have Jessica Sulu, who I think it's from the latter seasons of the UK version of Shameless.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I've never seen it. And then you also have
you.
the production designer Mara Sloop, that she did like the early seasons and I think some of the later seasons of True Detective. And like, just to piggyback on what you said, it's like M. Night Shyamalan just like I think he said this on the behind the scenes like featurette, is like he basically saw like It Follows and was like, I like the look of that. I want the cinematographer. And then you saw True Detective. He was like, I like the look of these sets. I want her. So it's like he's really getting what he wants. So it's like
and doing it on a low budget and doing it and what's incredible about Split is that it doesn't feel like a low budget movie. It feels like a blockbuster. And there is so much to say about like Jason Blum and his like, low budget model. But the thing is, like, when you look at what kind of accumulated and built to that, what's great about it is it gave us like a renaissance career of Scott Derrickson and M. Night Shyamalan. They both kind of got to, basically revive their careers off of Jason Blum. Because, Derrickson was coming from The Day the Earth Stood Still remake that nobody likes. And he comes out with Sinister. And then, of course, here, we got M. Night Shyamalan with Split and The Visit. And what we're not even mentioning is a month later, Get Out comes out from Blumhouse, which completely, not only starts Jordan Peele's directing career, but basically transforms his image overnight. So it's like the kind of caliber that, Blumhouse is like putting together and allowing, and also giving them the freedom to make these like, big movies that feel big, but are done very small. I think is commendable. And I think that is the big thing to talk about
and also I think what makes people want to work with M. Night Shyamalan as well is that you hear this a lot, like after they work with M. Night Shyamalan, is that he always knows like what the movie's going to look like as he's writing the script. He has a picture in his mind. And for me, like as a DP, if I'm a DP or anyone working like on set, like that's incredibly helpful because it makes my job easier.
He also, not to interrupt you, sorry.
Go ahead.
He also storyboards like every shot, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And that's just add on. You can keep going.
No, he storyboards every single shot. And I just think that just makes everyone's job easier. And that's why everyone's just like, when M. Night Shyamalan calls, like, you pick up the phone. It's kind of, he's on the level of Tarantino. Well, maybe, I don't think very many people want to work with Tarantino all that much, but it's, he's
a name, for sure.
You don't ignore him.
Well, the thing about Shyamalan is, like, almost I've never heard anyone, like, give a bad story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never heard any actor be like, or I've never heard anyone be like, fuck him, stupid movie. I think Mark Wahlberg's like the closest to it of like.
But I don't believe him.
What do you mean? Wait, what do you mean?
If it's Mark Wahlberg, I wouldn't believe him. If he was working with M. Night sucks, I'd be like, dude, working with you probably sucks.
Yeah.
From the interviews that I saw of Mark Wahlberg, I don't think he was all that harsh. I think he just didn't get it. It was more like he didn't get it, but like
there is a sense of like, I think M. Night Shyamalan he's very passionate about making sure that what he feels he needs to make to be himself and be authentic in his films is what he's putting out. And so sometimes I think that can lead to him being like, no, this is the way we're doing it. I mean, he's the writer director, and like I know he everyone seems to like him, and I think he's a very nice person, and creatively it seems like he's fun to work with. But I can definitely see why someone might be like, he's too meticulous about everything. Like he wants everything to be a certain way. But I think that's just because he's very excited about the films that he's making. But he's always speaking out about being, yourself, not trying to emulate anybody else, but to instead be inspired by the fact that other people are themselves and allow that to inspire you to be yourself, not to be them, if that makes sense. And
No,
I
it-
think on The Happening, I've seen in some of the behind the scenes like stuff that was something Mark Wahlberg like had a problem with, was like how, if he would challenge something, M. Night Shyamalan would just be like, well, this is no, you don't get it. This is like what we're this is like what I want to do. I can definitely see that that's worthy of criticism, but I respect him. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, before we get into our like Split, I'm just gonna read the synopsis here from Letterboxd. Though Kevin was evidenced 23 personalities to his trusted psychiatrist Dr. Fletcher, there remains one still submerged who is set to materialize and dominate all the others. Compelled to abduct 3 teenage girls led by the willful, observant Casey, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. Is it Anya Taylor-Joy or is
yes,
it Anya?
well, I've heard it say both ways. So
Yeah, hopefully it's Anya. But Kevin reaches a war for survival among all of those contained with him, as well as everyone around him, as the walls between his compartments shatter apart. That's a really good synopsis, by the way. Well done, Letterboxd. But let's get into this introduction scene. Like with this, you're introduced with these 3 girls at a coffee shop. Obviously, Casey is kind of the outcast a little bit. She's kind of like the girls are kind of making fun of her. And what do you kind of think of like this intro where it's like, yeah, it just seems like typical hazing in a way, like little girl hazing. So,
well, first of all, I never really realized they were at a coffee shop. I thought that I thought it was like, I think it's like a birthday party, right? And then
Yeah, it's
one
a
of the
birthday
girls,
party.
and
Yeah,
she felt
you're right.
obligated to invite Anya Taylor-Joy's character.
That's right.
I think
Well,
they're
the
at like
dad-
in fact, my headcanon is that it's a Cheesecake Factory, specifically because it looks exactly like, I don't know if this is just because I talked about Split with my grandma at this mall, but there's a Cheesecake Factory right across from the movie theater at my local mall. And like, you go out to the parking lot and it kind of looks like the parking lot from Split. So I'm always like, they're at that Cheesecake Factory. It's not.
Yeah.
So this scene,
It looks like a Barnes and Noble, like kind of. Not to
Sort
throw
of.
you
I
off,
think-
but
I got coffee shop vibes a little bit, but I think you're right. It's a birthday party.
this is this is what we need to get to the bottom of right now. I think for this opening scene, my only big thing is I think it's a really nice, like, economical setup for the film, setting up the relationships between these 2 girls, how they're, reluctantly hanging out with this outcast played by Anya Taylor-Joy. How the, she already, it's hinting at her relationship with her uncle, the way that she can't get a ride home, and so she's riding home with these girls. That comes into play later. I think M. Night's always setting up his movies in ways you don't
planting
even
the
realize
seeds.
until
He's planting the seeds.
later. Yeah, he's always playing the motifs that are going to come in later in the film before you even know them or recognize them. And then the only thing that I want to talk about with this opening in particular that bothers me is people are critical of the fact that Anya Taylor-Joy doesn't get out of the car fast enough and that she kind of just stares at him. So I'm curious to hear what y'all think, because I never thought that was a problem. I always thought it kind of made sense that she's kind of, as you learn about the character, she's used to these kind of situations, and I think her response is just to kind of sit in them. And she obviously is afraid, but I think she's paralyzed in that sense.
Go ahead, Kale. Go ahead.
if I may chime in. Well, so when I first saw the movie, we were all, me and my friends, like I mentioned, we were all thinking the same thing, like just open the door and run, because like literally Dennis, who is the character that kidnaps these girls, like we find like he's not like very quick to stun her or anything. He actually looks at her, notices that she's there, and it's like okay. So it is. So I mean, I understand the frustration at first, but when you watch the movie and you see, because like the layers come off, literally and figuratively for Casey, and you learn more about her. It's like it all makes sense. Like it's the one action that M. Night Shyamalan does for a character that kind of makes sense, like quirk. M. Night Shyamalan loves his quirks, but it's the one time where the quirk actually pays off.
I also want to mention what you just said, which is that Dennis kind of looks like, okay, sure, I guess.
Like he doesn't want to, but he knows. Like he doesn't want to, but he knows that the witness is. Like he knows if he lets her go,
mirrors. It almost mirrors their willingness to invite her to the birthday party. They're like, all right, you can come to the kidnapping too, I guess, since you're here. I think it makes sense too for the character, because I think he was truly just targeting the other 2 girls, and we find out that reason later. That they are what is
They're
it? They're unbroken,
they're
to be
perfect.
literal.
They're not
Yeah.
unspoiled, if you will.
Yeah, they are, I guess, they're too privileged in a sense. They
Which is
haven't.
justified because when he gets into the car, they don't even notice for a few seconds. Like they're
No,
just
yeah.
so caught up in their own, like, you know, they're so caught up in their own world that they don't even notice. In fact, Anya's the only, or Casey's the one that notices it first. Then it's the other two girls, and then she tries to, or she thinks about getting out, but like you said, she is so paralyzed that, you know, it, like it's her instant survival instincts kicking in at the worst time.
Well, and also it mirrors the whole situation that happened with her uncle that
Absolutely.
that we'll talk about like later. Like she freezes up there. So especially on rewatch, I started noticing like the parallels there, where it's like, oh, she froze up with her uncle, she freezes up in this situation. Like it's a trauma response. Where and what I love most about that car scene is how M. Night Shyamalan, like how he shoots that entire scene, and how like you're seeing it pretty much from Casey's perspective of like she's looking through. It's M. Night Shyamalan, he loves like his reflections. Like like you see like the hood of the back of the car like still up, and you just see kind of like you just see out of the corner of your eye like, oh, something's up. And I don't know, I just love the way he shoots like those types of scenes. And then you see Dennis jump in the car, and then they get kidnapped. And this is one thing I was talking to you, Peyton, before we started recording. This movie is super tight. Like it starts off like pretty quick. Like you get introduced to these girls, they get kidnapped, and you really are just with these girls like pretty much the entire time. And this movie just moves. This movie moves like.
Which is interesting you say that, because this is the second longest M. Night Shyamalan movie next to Glass.
It's true.
It's like hour and 57 minutes, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, no, he doesn't really make long films. That's another thing you can always rely on him to make a relatively tight film. Another thing, just to piggyback off what you were saying about the visuals, is that what I like about this film is that he chose to make the visuals intentionally, the colors very muted, because these characters don't yet know that they're in the comic book world. Those primary colors don't come out until I think the end. There is a little more, but it's in the diner at the end. There's like those lights, but before that, he left it intentionally very muted to kind of keep it grounded before you realize the world that you're in. And I think that's that also works thematically, even if you're separating it from the series that it's in, because it's all about people discovering that human beings are capable of more than they think. I think that's just a constant thing with him, and also about trauma, and how I like his approach to trauma, because it's like it's there. You can displace it, you can put it wherever you want, but it's going to be there. You can't destroy it, right? So you have to, he likes to flip that perspective on its head, and really offer the audience the opportunity to believe that it can actually lead you to a unique capacity for good. And I think that's what I think that is what plays into what we were talking about with the other two girls, is that they haven't learned that lesson yet. And I think Kevin is trying to, in his own, well, maybe not Kevin, but the Horde, right, is trying to, in their own sick, twisted way, kind of spread that belief. Just a great concept for a movie to have all these multiple personalities. It's perfect for M. Night, because you really get to see how an entire ecosystem of or entire community, essentially, of people in one body communicate back and forth and argue over what they should believe that the trauma they're trying to handle means. And to see that play out verbally and through separate characters within the same being is like so fascinating.
Yeah, and especially like all the like each character or each personality being a different age too, and a different gender, all being played by one actor. That's still mind blowing to me. Like I guess we can move on to like the whole captivity. Like the girls get go into, it's like, I wouldn't call it like a basement. It's more of like just like a special room, and
kind of like an abandoned, like I guess an abandoned living
warehouse
space under a zoo.
Yeah, abandoned, like kind of like secret
It's like
room.
a storage closet. It's like it's a storage closet / like apartment for like guards.
Yeah, it's kind of a maze. Like the one room they're in is more of like a bedroom, but then there's also there's storage closets, and there's kitchens, and there's bathrooms. So there's plenty of it's like an entire kind of just living area for security guards essentially that's abandoned.
Yeah, and then we get the like when they're down there, then like the two other girls are kind of freaking out. Anya Taylor-Joy is kind of like okay, how do we get out of this situation while the other girls are freaking out? And then this is when we get the slow cut like build when you start seeing like all the different personalities come out. And I think this is like the reveal of the what's her name, Patricia. This is when we get the Patricia reveal, which is what was everyone's reaction when you first saw like James McAvoy just like you think it's someone else, and then it's revealed that it's still Kevin, but Patricia's like taking over.
I remember thinking it was funny, but I think I saw it in the trailer, so I don't know.
Yeah, this reveal was in the trailer. For me, it was like, so watching it was like, okay, so this is part of this is the setup. This is the catalyst of the whole thing is these girls are trapped, and they're trapped with somebody who has different personalities. Granted, it is a widely exaggerated form of an actual mental illness, but it is, but again, right. But I mean, even that, it almost feels inaccurate to call it the idea.
Well, to not to interrupt, but I had kind of felt the same way about this for like the longest time, and it was probably why the reason I was kind of so low on this film, because like this is an actual mental disorder, and that's something that M. Night Shyamalan does kind of like to like he likes to talk about like a lot, and he likes to have like his protagonist or antagonist to be kind of have like a mental disorder. I feel like with this, like especially the way this movie ends, it's so not grounded like anymore. I feel like it makes sense, and it's just
right.
And Night Shyamalan talks about how he likes kind of like asking why or what, like if this were to actually happen, he likes to puts himself in scenarios and wonder like if this actually could happen, like if a personality could actually take over like someone. And like that's honestly what I go to movies for. I love it when directors like ask questions and we're kind of along that journey with the director as well. I'm not saying that it's like it's definitely kind of a little bit insensitive, but I can see where he's going with this.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, when I mean like it feels inaccurate, it feels way too off. It feels way too extreme to call it this. Like, but the reason why I said in the beginning, like the twist actually makes the movie better, is that by virtue of it being now a superhero movie or a comic book movie, it kind of now sets the tone for the rest of the movie and basically the rest of this trilogy of, this is a superhero trilogy. This is not meant to be taken like completely literal or it's not meant to be taken for like face value. It's meant to be like, this is a supervillain. Like Kevin Wendell Crumb is a supervillain, and now Bruce Willis is a superhero. So it's like that's what we're like leading into. Like this was a supervillain origin story. This is we got the superhero origin story 2 decades ago almost, but now we're back. So that's why, like, for me, it works, because all comics and superhero, even in our most recent superhero movies, the villains are always like mad, or they all have like mental illness. They all have like problems that that are unresolved, and they're taken to like the most extremes for theatricality. So in a way, I understand people's response to the movie, like portraying it, and it does create, because if like, here's the thing, there are some people that are just that shallow that believe that this would actually happen,
or to believe that any person with a mental illness is a villain, like in a way, which is not true. But
I mean, the thing is though, like if you come out of it thinking that all people with mental illness are villains, that's your problem. You're the problem. So to me, like the way going back to Patricia and all these personalities, it's like, it is a extreme, but it is like, but I feel like for me, it's like, it's the perfect catalyst, and it's the perfect story, because for our character of Casey, who is our now protagonist, because these two other women, they are definitely not the protagonists.
They're just there. They're just existing.
They're both in a literal and figurative. They're just neat.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting because I think that this is them being so. I mean, they're not. There's a great line in here that I love from Anya Taylor-Joy's character where she says, "Everything is so easy for you guys." Like even when they're in this horrible situation and they don't know where they are and they don't know what's going on, they're just like, "Let's just all jump this guy." Like, what are you doing? And I think she's just like, "Oh yeah, everything's just so easy for you guys. You just think that like, yeah, you can just do that and it'll work."
A little
we don't
unfair,
like
which is a little unfair on Casey's part because they're just trying to like they're just trying to get out.
I think the movie is the movie is more exploring the differences. I don't think it's like trying to say that like I don't think the movie believes that these people are stupid for thinking that, but I think Casey is just trying to point out to them that they don't actually know what the situation is yet and that there might be like some kind of other thing that presents a solution. Exactly.
Sorry.
Kind of going off what you were saying, Peyton, about like, what Casey says, like in that situation, like everything is so easy. Because then we get it into like more of her backstory, kind of like what I mentioned, like what happened with her uncle. And I remember watching this in the theater, and I think for me, this might be the darkest backstory for like any character that M. Night Shyamalan has ever written.
Don't know exactly what happened to the butcher. It's implied.
Well, yeah, we don't. It's implied, but we don't know. But
it's more mommy stuff. But yeah.
But I distinctly remember watching this movie in theaters, and this is kind of like M. Night Shyamalan. He kind of has like a bad habit with like when he's talking about stuff that's pretty serious like this, like with stuff that happened like Casey in this situation, like with her uncle. The way Shyamalan shoots this, or even just writes dialogue, I didn't see it was funny at all, but the people in my audience, I have a distinct memory of people laughing during this, especially with some of the situations the uncle kind of like puts himself in. Like it was very awkward. I think it's more of an awkward laugh, but it was definitely a weird approach for Shyamalan.
Are you talking about maybe like the scene where he's pretending to be an animal or something?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I think that he's obviously aiming to manipulate this child, and making it out to be some kind of game that it's very fucked up. But I think that people might have been laughing just because I think people take these M. Night movies, like I guess they tend to think that he doesn't know that there's a certain style to the dialogue. I think his movies just don't really take place on. I always say they don't really take place on Earth. Obviously they do. They take place in Philadelphia, USA, but it's tightened and it's always dramatized. And I think for a film like this that we now know is a comic book movie, this is essentially a tragic backstory. I think for other M. Night movies, it's harder for him to get people to approach it kind of like Kale was saying in like a non-literal way, because they don't have that kind of barrier of like, oh, it's a comic book movie. I can separate myself from this and I don't have to, engage with absurd situations sincerely I can engage with absurd situations sincerely because it's a comic book movie. But I think that people should be more willing to engage with absurd situations sincerely when it's not. Just based on the fact that it's a film and that it's art and it's trying to express feeling rather than portray a reality,
Yeah, I mentioned this. I mentioned this on the Happening episode, which is a few episodes back. Like, I feel like writing dialogue is hard for someone that's a writer myself. Dialogue is probably the most difficult things to actually do. I find myself going to coffee shops and trying to listen how people talk. But dialogues, we kind of like interpret like dialects and dialogues like in different ways. And this is just how Shyamalan just sees like how someone like this that's behaving this sort of way. This is how he's perceived these type of people, like kind of like talking like in this sort of way. And I didn't realize that like when I was younger, kind of like watching M. Night Shyamalan movies, but especially during this series, I'm really starting to appreciate his dialogue a lot more, just because this is, like you said, Peyton, it's taking place in a different world. This is M. Night Shyamalan's world. So it's like, and you got to respect him for that. But yeah, but horrifying scene.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely understand like anyone who's critical of serious things like that, especially with, DID and all that stuff as well. But I think that I think at least, at the very least, I don't think it can be said that he has bad intentions when he's doing these things, but you can definitely qualify certain things as a misfire. And I think that argument can be made.
Yeah. Kale, any thoughts on Peyton and I kind of dominating the conversations?
No, I'm listening. I'm listening and so the other thing the only other thing I would kind of mention to the bear scene. So I don't think it's funny. I think when I first saw it, I found it kind of horrifying. Because to me, it's like I kind of already was kind of seeing what was happening, right? I was kind of already putting together what was happening at that point. Maybe I was getting a little too ahead of the movie, but I was like already putting it together, so I already kind of knew. The other thing, but what I will say about like what all of this does is it makes Casey kind of more observant and more aware. Like there's scenes in the movie where like she's like, because she's like walking, like she's always looking for like air vents, exits. Like she's trying to orient herself on where she is, like what's happening, and and also and when Jessica's like taken out for like a second, with Dennis, we don't know what's happening in that moment. But we know that something might happen. That moment, afterwards, like she's asking, like, did you see anything? Like what? Like she's very proactive. Like she is finding her own way out. She's not just like she's thinking a step ahead. Like going back to that moment you guys talk about, like we need to jump him. It's like she's thinking, okay, but then what? We jump him, and then what? Like, what if there's like 5 other guys that are also like we haven't seen yet?
Yeah,
exactly.
Or what?
23 other guys.
Yeah.
Very good point. Like, what if what if there's like we have no idea where we're at. We have like we need to get out of the room, but we need to be able to do it in a strategic way. She's also thinking, she's probably also thinking, like, if we were going to die, we would have been dead already. Like if we were just brought here to be killed, like it would have already happened.
Yeah.
Although that's easy for Casey to say because the 2 other girls die at the end of this movie. So, but either way, like she is smart. She's like, she even hears from Hedwig. I think that's right, Hedwig, the 9-year-old. She hears from the 9-year-old, oh, I have a window. I have a window, like, and so she's like, okay, I'll go look at the window. Or she goes and sees the phone, and she tries, like, and she does, like, she has a moment where she's strategic, like, let me use the phone to find somebody, and she almost gets someone, but damn it, guards, they just don't know. They're just too stupid.
Yeah.
So,
and that like the whole Hedwig scenes, like throughout this entire movie, and Peyton, I think you've mentioned this before. It's M. Night Shyamalan's kind of like fascination with children too, on how they're kind of like the gateway to everything for the protagonists. And I think Hedwig, like you immediately, especially like when she comes out, like when she comes out of that dream, and Hedwig is just laying there with her, like know that they both kind of like went through some shit, and they're both kind of like working it out together.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, yeah, absolutely. I think that it's more present in Glass with Hedwig as a character specifically, but I think that he is definitely like that. There is a, he's always talking about how kids are like more open, more vulnerable, like more, I guess they engage with things in a less, they haven't been pummeled with like a lot, like, oh, this is what you should think and this is what you should feel, and they feel on a very natural, they experience the world in a very natural way. And I think that is probably his fascination with portraying children in his films. It's very in such a reverent light.
It's very Spielbergian.
Like, a little bit. And I think that's why after The Sixth Sense, people were like, "Oh my God, Spielberg!"
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, we get kind of like all those interactions like down in that room, and then we already talked about the horrifying backstory, Casey's horrifying backstory. I don't think we really need to talk all that much about it, except like kind of like what you were saying, Peyton, about it. Casey says it's just comes so easy for you. Like it's hard for Casey to pull the trigger. I know for me, I was like, pull the trigger, damn it. Just like it's not that hard. I'm like, but I know it's like it's especially at the end, she has a hard time pulling the trigger because she can't see in the dark. Like with the beast, like when she grabs the shotgun, it's like it all connects with Shyamalan. Shyamalan's thing is he's like 2 steps ahead of the audience, and this is what
yeah. And I think also the animal imagery in this movie very
Mhm.
important. And honestly, in Trap 2, there's the lion, right? There's the monster. But anyway, in this film, it's a zoo. She has a hunting experience in her backstory.
Mhm.
Her uncle is pretending to be a bear. There's the beast crawling on walls and doing animal like things. And like, I think that it's meant to be this, yeah, just her learning to kind of, I guess, accept the beast for what it is in her
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
Because I
Wow.
perceive it as like
Holy-
she has
Sorry.
I perceive it as she has like a hesitance to really condemn her uncle's actions, because it's all she's known. And I'm sure at a time when she was younger, she had an admiration for him and a love for him, before she realized what was going on.
Mhm.
And I think
Well, also
that,
she's a child.
well, right,
Most
exactly.
importantly,
So
she's a
so I
child.
think when you grow up that way, it's like, I mean, there's the reason that it cuts between her dad's funeral and
Mhm.
her getting chased by the beast. It's like,
Mhm.
essentially that is the moment she was captured and has been in captivity her whole life. So
Mhm.
that's why when she becomes, into this situation, she's just like, naturally she knows what to do in a lot, and she's a lot of observant, because she's always in this mode,
Mhm.
and that's why she doesn't fit in with the other people. So I think it's just really cool, like, mirrored character journeys going on, and her kind of realization of, like I said, just accepting the beast in her life for who it is, and condemning it. There's this great, my favorite moment from Anya Taylor-Joy in this movie, acting wise, is like moment at the end when she's like, "Oh, your uncle's waiting for you," and she just looks at that
Mhm.
police officer, and the look on her face, you can tell she's just not going to go back,
Yeah.
because she's like, I don't know what's worse, like him or the guy I was just captured by. Like, what's the difference?
Hedwig's
Yeah.
nice. She's like, Hedwig.
Yeah, Hedwig
Yeah.
is he
He's
has
the
bad
goat.
music taste, but he's nice.
Yeah. Especially Drake. So
Drake, and then in this movie it's Kanye. It's like, damn, you couldn't
yeah,
win.
he can't win. He can't win. He's a kid. You don't know.
Yeah.
He don't know about the Zionism. What are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say a character that we could touch on is,
The
and I don't
therapist?
want to. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was kind of gonna jump right into the therapist, because this is, especially on a rewatch, it's kind of all of her scenes are the ones that kind of like bothered me the most a little bit. Like, it's bad. I feel like she's just a bad therapist. It's like encouraging these personalities to come out. It seems like something she could lose her job for. But I don't know. I just thought all the therapist scenes for me kind of slowed the movie down, and I just wanted more like of the stuff with Kevin and like and the girls, and then all the backstory stuff, just because I found that stuff a lot more interesting. I think James McAvoy is great in like the therapist scenes, just because you see, just as I mentioned, just like an all-time performance. I think this might be my favorite James McAvoy performance, and he's had a lot of great performances, especially.
I think, yeah, that makes total sense to say. I think
Yeah.
It's like not even close for me.
Well, what was that movie that came out last?
Speaking of Evil?
Yeah, I
He's
good
in that.
Yeah, he's
really good in that.
But for this time, I think it might be one of his better performances. And didn't Shyamalan like meet him at like a party? It was just
he literally bumped into him like as he was thinking, "Oh, who am I going to cast for this character?" And he bumped into him. Never met him before, and he was like,
And it was
the guy.
And it was a miracle because he was filming X-Men Apocalypse around this time. It was literally like literally McAvoy raps playing Professor Xavier for the third time and is now bald, because I think he shaved for.
I don't remember if he shaved or not. He looks a lot more clean shaven in X-Men Apocalypse. That could have just been because it was fresh, but he definitely shaven in this movie, so I feel like it would make sense.
Okay, because so he's coming in and he's bald, which already I think is a very aesthetic choice, like a very interesting aesthetic choice, especially for portraying Patricia.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like it is a very, because it's still like, how do we portray Patricia in, like, give Patricia like her own character, her own like figure, but still keep us in the know that this is still, a male figure playing, or a male figure in, Patricia's shoes. It's just like everything about how it's still played is so good, because Patricia's almost played like a Louise Fletcher from One Flew the Cuckoo's Nest kind of sort of way. Like, it just this very domineering, very complex character. Very, interesting. And it's also interesting because the therapist, Betty Buckley, played another domineering, mother in Carrie on stage back in the 80s.
Oh, really? She's also in The
Yeah.
Happening.
She is. But she's also a violent, maybe sort of crazy old woman.
Yeah. I think I have a bit of a this is like one of my minor problems with the movie is like I do like her in it, but I think that she's a little too much of an, I guess I could say, a filmmaker insert. Like with, I mean, and not in like a fun way. Like I just think she's too, it might be necessary for the story, but she's too like over the, she's too over expository in terms of like, no, like these people can literally do these things. Like I like her sessions with Kevin, but it's the fact that you have scenes of her talking to her colleagues and like giving presentations about this and being like, oh, these people can actually do this, these things, and you guys should believe it. And I think it is, good that he's trying to portray someone who's like essentially fighting for someone who's underappreciated in society. But I just feel like for this movie, it almost like it just like loosens it a little bit to where it could have been a little tighter in those areas. I think she's a necessary character. I like her with Kevin. I just think you could have kind of snuck in. Her beliefs are very clear in the scenes with Kevin, and I don't think we really need a lot of those scenes where we're detached from Kevin and the main situation that's going on with him and with the girls. So yeah, kind of loosens things a bit. Doesn't really, keep it to the central premise, but it is a good character, and I'm glad to see her in this.
I like the kind of like the whole production design of like her office, and then how stuff is revealed too. Like when you see kind of like the voicemails pop up, when you see like you see all that. That's really
all great stuff.
Really good visual storytelling there. I just think I totally agree with you, Peyton. It could have been reworked like a little bit to kind of not feel so forced and a little bit unnecessary. But I think is it Betty Buckley? Yeah, Betty Buckley. I think she does a great job as like a therapist, and really a brutal death scene for her.
I was gonna say he kills her anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, right. But
yeah,
it's kind of like a little bit that it's like kind of killed by your own creation in a way. Like she's the one that actually.
It's not even of a negligence either. It's like she's not it's not really even negligence. She's like like her subplot is like figuring out like what is going on with all of these like characters. Like she's trying to figure out like what's like who's calling for help, who's like she's trying, like she's in her own like mystery movie. It's just unfortunately for her, like, there's this whole other movie, the main plot's happening, and everything that's happening is just going to happen because, everything's just going to happen because it's already happening. Like everything has been set into stone. And it's not even like in any screenwriting way. It's just a, she like, this was like the next logical step in like what was going to happen with this character.
Taking it to like, when you're watching a movie about an abduction or a kidnapping or some kind of captivity like this, there is usually, the subplot where you have a character investigating and trying to find the person that's captured and trying to figure out what's going on. And I feel like this is kind of that, but like those are always the least interesting parts of those movies, I think. So I think that's basically stays consistent here, but it is still done in like original Shyamalan fashion. So it's enjoyable. It's just not the best part of the movie.
Yeah, it's not. But like, as I mentioned, like everything is very tight. Like it's like you don't necessarily spend all that much time with her. It's just I kind of wish that they were a little bit more like memorable in a way. Like still memorable, but I wish they had a point. But we kind of already talked. We're kind of getting a little bit long, but should we just talk a little bit about the emergence, like of the beast? Like I feel like that's we've talked about everything except for that, and then we talked about the ending a little bit.
That's actually, I think, my favorite scene in the movie. But you guys can go first because
it's interesting. Because it's interesting. It's interesting. It's done in a train or an abandoned like train cart, kind of symbolize. And what's cool is like, kind of hinting at like what's to come later with the twist. It hints that, like it hints that like maybe Kevin or somebody knows that, his father died in a train or something happened in that case. Like somebody's aware.
That's insane.
They might not know the full like context, like what we find out later in the next movie, but it is interesting. Like, M. Night Shyamalan's like kind of already like laying the track, if you will, no pun intended, but laying the track, if you will, to the twist of, especially with the flowers, the train cart. And again, it emerges in the train cart as it's the birth of this villain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all interesting. I think it's a very interesting, although that must have been some interesting security camera footage of just seeing this person just going down the streets of Philadelphia.
I love those scenes of him just
Mm-hmm.
running through the dark streets of Philadelphia. I think that those are so fun. I love this sequence where he turns into the Beast because you're right. It is teasing the unbreakable thing with the train, but he also puts flowers on the side of the entrance of the train. And correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not forgetting the reason, but to me, this scene felt like he was essentially putting his father to rest. His father was the good parent that he had in his life that left to go. You can see this in the next movie, to go research the idea and help his mom. And then he dies in the train crash, which causes him to be left with his mom, and his mom does horrible things to him. And that, that trauma's made him who he is. And so he's laying his father to rest because I think he's giving into the beast and the things in him that come from that. And so, kind of removing that part of himself. And I think that is a really cool way to frame the emergence of the Beast. And I love that there's this great dolly zoom from behind him where he's getting bigger.
Yeah.
I think it's
really,
awesome scene.
really great shot, great music. And I love the dolly zoom too. I just like the hallway shot of just it reminded, I remember watching this to the first time just because it almost felt a little bit too video gamey in a way. It's Casey kind of she got all the power-ups or something like that. Now she has the shotgun. Now she has to take down the Beast. And I actually remember people kind of had criticisms with that, where it's it kind of bothers me when people have criticisms being too video gamey, but I think that's just people's kind of prejudice towards or just issues with video games, because I actually enjoyed that type of stuff. I just love the whole atmosphere of seeing the Beast kind of crawl on the walls, and you really see the fear in Casey's eyes, but that she was going to get out of this, because it's she's been through all of this shit before. She can handle this. But I just love the way she's holding that shotgun, because she going back to her backstory, she was very timid and wasn't sure if she wanted to kill her uncle. But here she's just kind of really a whole just a badass, in my opinion. She has you can see the confidence kind of leak out in her. But yeah, I love this sequence a lot. And then is there anything else we want to bring up with this that stood out to you? Or
I do really love the scene where she says Kevin's name and he finally comes out, takes the light for once in, I guess, a few years. He says it's still 2014, right? And so he hasn't had the light for 3 years, and there's such a sadness in his voice, and you can really tell when, in the way James McAvoy performs it, that it genuinely feels like this man has nothing left that he wants to live for. And I think in the next film is where we really see her try to kind of give him that purpose back. But I do love that scene. I always get a little emotional during it, especially when all of the other personalities, it's I was saying earlier about watching them kind of discuss their own trauma, where Kevin's I want to give up, and then his essentially his, I don't want to say this wrong, but essentially the things he has within himself, his pain has become self-sustaining to where he gives up, and then they take over, and they're no, don't do that, do that, because they have their whole religion figured out now,
right?
So they don't want her to take him out. And so that scene is it's emotional, it's sad, it's scary, it's kind of funny, because the way that Barry comes in, he's oh, baby girl, that's pretty funny. So I love that.
Yeah, it's really great. And then we kind of already talked about it. Then we get to post credits. I already talked about how I freaked out when I heard the Unbreakable theme, and then Peyton, you pointed out about the whole changing colors too, how we're fully in a comic book now, and then we get the reveal of Bruce Willis, and then it's what's he watching on the TV again?
It's
I'm
a
just watching
news,
the news.
yeah, it's a news broadcast that's like, because of his many personalities, he's being called the Horde. And then in typical corny Shyamalan fashion, there's a woman at the diner that's like, this is like that other guy from 15 years ago. What was his name? And then he's like, Mr. Glass. And he drinks his coffee, and it's hilarious. Really glad they reworked the design of his like new security outfit that he has that says done on it. I get they put a name tag there so you could really tell who it is, but I'm glad that that's not what he wears in Glass. I'm also glad that they gave him that stubble, that little goatee in Glass, because that looks really cool. But otherwise, really good to see him. The one thing I want to say about this ending, and then like I'm pretty much good, is there's a line that the Horde says about, I believe it's Hedwig and Dennis going back and forth when the Unbreakable theme starts to play. And this is when you kind of see how him and Elijah are very similar, is when they're also reflected in Glass in this scene. So that's the other main hint, is that he says, they're going to believe we exist now, right? And then Dennis says they're going to have to. It's that sort of thing. It's like, it's not, I want you to believe that I exist. I want you to believe that I have the right to exist. It's, you have to, and I'm going to make you, and in whatever means that I see fit. So that sets him up to be another kind of tragic villain figure for this world. And I think that's so cool. And I also think it speaks to the whole themes of the movie. And I think this is a movie that could honestly be interpreted to be about like any sort of group that's like underrepresented or underseen in society. I think about that line and how just the simple act of existing as your authentic self can truly cause change in the world, because you are capable of showing people things that are possible for a human being to be and do that they wouldn't have found out without you existing and being authentic. So I think that's a nice bow tie on Split.
Exactly. Kale, any final thoughts on that?
To me, like, what I love about the ending is, I think for me, the ending is so great because when you're watching it, you still have no idea where the movie's going. You don't even know that you're reaching the end of the movie. You feel like you've reached the climax of Casey's character, but you're not really sure how everything's wrapping up. And what's so great is, I'll admit, I did not watch Unbreakable at this time when I first saw the movie. I haven't seen it yet at this point. So when the Unbreakable theme does come on, and I was like, okay, this is really good music. It's very ominous. Like, it's very well done. And what's so great is it works so parallel because it is a superhero theme in Unbreakable. Like, it really is like the hero theme, but it also works so ominously perfect for, when the three characters, Dennis, Patricia, Hedwig, are talking, and because you're like, okay, great, this is great. And then you get this post-credit scene, so like, okay, so this is basically part one. It's basically, we're watching the beginning, we've watched the part one of the finale, and now we have to wait, a year or two for part two, essentially. So for me, the ending works so well. I mean, yeah, the dialogue is kind of, cheesy, of like the actress being like, and the actress there is just like, what was that one guy, like just chewing the biggest wad of gum that has ever been chewed, almost, to get it out. What was that guy? It is a little, everything's on the nose. But again, what's so great about the ending is, the twist is, when you realize you're unbreakable, you're like, oh, we're in a superhero world. It does nothing is bound to reality. So we now have just witnessed, and it's a great reveal. Like, it feels so much of like, if you're watching it for the first time, it feels like you just discovered something. And I think that's like the coolest part about the movie, is like, when you watch it, you feel like you've discovered something. After that, I mean, like, it makes you excited for what's to come. And I mean, because at this point, like, M. Night Shyamalan, after this movie comes out, he did not have to do Glass. Like, he literally he had earned his claim. He did not have to finish the trilogy. It could have just been this nice, fun little reveal that, the Split is in, this, like, it could have been another 17, 19 years before we have another one of these.
He didn't even have to connect Split. It's like we said, it's like Split could definitely like work on its own, but this is just something that like Shyamalan thought was necessary, and I just think that's I just think that's cool. And he wasn't pressured to do it by like any other studio. I'm not trying to
No.
in those studios, MCU, but
Okay, I thought it was me.
okay.
Oh, Marley, did
I
you
think we're
freeze?
good.
We're back.
I think we're
Oh.
good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not trying to dead name like any studio, but the MCU, just because Shyamalan, he's making these decisions on his own.
Well, now it's almost expected for the MCU. That's the problem now. The MCU is like it's expected to have something that teases, but now they're not even doing. They're just like they're coming up with these post-credit scenes that are like something's coming. Just hang out a little longer.
You know, I tell you who does that. It's Sony. Sony does that shit. They are not serious. What is the point? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into that. But
No, we don't.
they're so unserious. I watch you watch the
So does
Morbius
Marvel.
post-credit scene, and you're just like, that's not happening. Anyway, I think with
when is-
Marvel, it's like they'll
when
get
are we
around.
gonna get
Like,
these
they'll get
characters?
around to it in like 10 years. But the Sonyverse, it's never happened.
When is Roy Kent going to be Hercules? That's what I want to know.
And you're you're thinking to yourself like, there's no way they could solve all this in Doomsday. And anyway,
this is how we solve it. Night Shyamalan just needs to direct an MCU movie.
No,
No,
then
probably.
I mean,
Well,
it'll
no,
be a
if
free
you-
movie. It'll be a free movie for
Nicholas
them
Sparks
because
first, please.
Yes.
Right? It'll be a free movie for them because M. Night Shyamalan will pay for it. He'll pay for all $180 million.
No, it'll be $25 million. He'll do
He'll do a street level movie.
Do like a Squirrel Girl movie.
or Nightcrawler. He'll just do Nightcrawler.
Let him do
This is how they
Spider-Man
break into the X-Men with M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh,
He'll do
that
Kate Bishop.
Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
I was thinking a Nightwing when you
Oh
said
no.
Nightcrawler.
He should do Kate Bishop.
He's already working with a Nightcrawler. Jake Gyllenhaal's in the next movie.
Yeah. Well done. But yeah. Before we get too sidetracked, is there any more final thoughts on Split? Split's great. It's fantastic. But yeah.
Great film. Not top tier M Night for me because I think it's just a little too. I don't know. Like this is just like it's like such a surefire like win for Shyamalan, which I love, and it has almost all of it that I like. It's kind of it works as your typical thriller, and it works as your if you're a true Shyamalan head and you love the Unbreakable series, it works there too. But I think I like his a little more experimental stuff, his kind of more absurd concepts more, and I think this concept is a lot more grounded, ironically, because it's literally a superhero movie. But yeah, it's a great film.
Kale?
Great blockbuster. Like kind of what Sean Baker had done with this last year with Anora. It's his most accessible movie. Like it's a movie where everyone can kind of watch it. And I mean, except for, Peyton's grandmother, clearly that was not for her.
Yeah.
But still, it's like a movie where
I don't think my
everyone can
grandmother
watch
would like Anora either.
Well,
You can't
I
win
guess
them all.
I don't know. Can't win everybody, but yeah, no, like this is the most, this is like his like return to form, and this is his like coming back to the big leagues. This is the beginning of his renaissance, and I think and this would be his most profitable movie. And Glass is still like a successful movie as well, but I think after Glass, he kind of finds his own groove and finds his own like I can do this kind of movie, but only in this budget range. From here on out. Like I think this is him finally figuring out like how he's going to make his movies. He's not going to be I highly doubt he will ever make something as big as The Last Airbender or After Earth ever again. Not that I don't want it. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm just thinking like from here on out he's probably going to stick to like that $20 to $40 million budget range. Maybe even less than 20 if he can make it work. But he's going to stick to this range I think for as long as he can, because I think he's realized that's probably the most he can do, because he knows now he has his niche audiences, he has his patents, and it's for the best and it's for good. And I'm very excited to continue this conversation in Glass, or to see the continuation of this conversation for Glass.
Yeah, for sure. I love this movie. I think I love it more on rewatch. I'm really starting to. I really do appreciate James McAvoy even more every single time I watch this movie, and I just love that it's a tight film, and M. Night Shyamalan gets in, and he gets out. He has like some really tough conversations that Peyton, like you mentioned, it's about him kind of like fearing like his daughter's entering out into the real world. Kind of like it gets personal with stuff like that, but also it's just a fun like entertaining blockbuster, yeah, I think Split is up there for me. I don't think I'm with you, Peyton. It's not top tier because Trap is still there, but but we haven't gotten to Trap yet. But well, we have, but we'll get to it again.
Been trapped, but not yet.
Yeah, but but this is the part of the show where we get to tell everyone where they can find you. Peyton, you want to go first?
Yeah, you can find me at Peyton_pictures on TikTok, and you can find me at Peyton_JB on Instagram and Letterboxd and Blue Sky. I think that's all of them.
Yeah. Kale?
You can follow me at Movie Kale. This is where you can follow. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky this way at Movie Kale. This is where you can get all of the information for not only the Youth Critic podcast that I host, but you can also get information on From the Top, the Ultimate Filmmakers Retrospective. Now, Marley, when is this episode coming out again?
The good question. Couple weeks for sure.
Okay. By this point, we'll be done on From the Top with the Lord of the Rings, and maybe already on to King Kong, maybe on to Lovely Bones. You have to check in and see where we're at, but we'll be either at King Kong or Lovely Bones at that point. Please check us out. We work really hard. Marley's been on an episode for this season of the Peter Jackson. He was on Meet the Feebles. You can just listen to our podcast for Meet the Feebles and not watch the movie. And yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for listening to us ramble through this, the East Rail 177, trilogy so far.
Yeah, right.
I think that's what it's called.
I think that's what it's called too. Peyton, have you seen Meet the Feebles?
No.
Don't.
Okay. All right, guys.
I'll send you some clips. So you'll at least know what the movie is.
I'm gonna do vulgar auteurism on Meet the Feebles.
Do it. I'll watch that TikTok right there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, all of the links will be in the description box down below. Definitely check out Peyton and Kale's work. They do fantastic work, and always love talking with them about Shyamalan and just movies in general. But if you made it to the end of the show, give us a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're watching here on YouTube, give us a subscribe as well. Also, follow us pretty much anywhere where you listen to podcasts, Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we're there. Give us a follow. Give us a rate and a review as well. You can follow me everywhere, Marley Silverbrand, with the username at Marley Loves Film. Most active places right now are going to be Instagram and Blue Sky. But yeah, with that being said, my name is Marley Silverbrand for the Real Lovers Podcast, and
I'm Peyton.
And I'm Kale.
And let's get back to the movies. See ya.